Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel AWS DevOps Next Level. So this video is continuation to the VPC Lab Demo Part 1 video. So as part of the Part 1, we saw how to create a VPC, how to create subnets within the VPC, then how to create an internet gateway attached to the VPC. And we also launched a web server inside a public subnet and we verified the connectivity to the web server. So if at all you have not watched my part 1 video, you can please click on the link above and go through the video. So as part of this part 2 video on the VPC Lab Demo, what I'm going to cover is, so we will see how to connect to an instance in a private subnet from the instance in a public subnet. So in our case, we have a web server in a public subnet. Once we launch an instance inside a private subnet, how do we connect to that instance from the web server? Next, if at all you want to enable internet connectivity for the instances inside a private subnet, how do we enable that? Because sometimes it is required that the instances in a private subnet, like your application server or the database server, they have to reach out to the internet and they have to download some patches and upgraded software releases. So during that time, it's important to enable the internet connectivity for the instances in a private subnet. So how do we enable that internet connectivity? So that is what we are going to see as part of this video. So this is going to be our instructions on the lab demo. So first step, what we will do, we will launch an EC2 instance inside a private subnet. Then we will log into the application server inside a private subnet from the web server. Then we will provision an important component called as the NAT Gateway. So it is basically the NAT Gateway that will enable internet connectivity for your instances inside a private subnet to the outside world. So we will see how to set up a NAT Gateway and how do we update the route table entries for the private subnet so that the internet connectivity happens. Then we will verify the internet connectivity. So this is what we are going to do as part of the lab demo. So the first step, we will go ahead and launch an EC2 instance inside a private subnet. So let me go to my AWS console. You can see that already we have a web server running here, and I will click launch instances. Let me log into the console again. So I will name this as a app server. So generally the app server and the database server is what we will launch inside a private subnet. So let me select the AMI as the line next to AMI. So key pair, we select the same key pair that was created before. This one, 2110. Or maybe I'll select this one. Okay, network settings. Very important. We need to select the non-default VPC, whatever we created. And anyway, this is going to be inside a private subnet. So you can see that the auto assignment of public IP is disabled for the private subnet. And this will be very important, the security group. So basically, we want to log into this app server from the web server, right? From the public subnet. So what would be the SSH rule for that? So I'm going to select custom here. And in this custom, I'm going to give the CIDR of my public subnet. So what is the CIDR of my public subnet? It is 10.0.0.0/27. Now let us go ahead and launch the instance. Okay, so now the app server is in the process of getting launched. First, I will log into the web server, and then we will try to check the SSH connectivity to the app server. Web server, let me copy the IP address. SSH auth, let me upload the credentials. Okay, let me try to do a connectivity check to the app server on SSH. But before that, I will install the telnet software on the web server. Yum install telnet -y. Okay, now I say telnet. And what is the app server IP address? The only way to communicate with app server is using its private IP address, right? So let me copy the private IP. So telnet, the private IP 422. You can see here, we are able to connect to the SSH port 22 from the web server. Now we will try to log into the app server from the web server. That is SSH ec2-user at the app server IP address, which is 10.0.0.52. It is asking to continue connecting. I will say yes here. And you can see here, it is giving a permission denied message, right? So why it is giving a permission denied message? Because of the lack of key authentication. With what authentication you will be connecting to the app server from the web server? So what do we need to do typically for that? We need to forward the private keys from the web server to the app server, right? So that the authentication can happen via the keys. So how do we do that key forwarding? So there are two ways to do it. One is you can use the SSH command line, and then you can use the -forward option and then do the key forwarding. The other option is to use a Pagient utility. So there is a utility called as the Pagient. So you can download it from the internet. So with the Pagient, you can upload the keys, the private keys for the web server, and you can forward the keys to the app server or to whichever server you are going to log in from the web server. So what I will do now, I will invoke my the Pagient utility. So here I will click add the keys, and I will add the keys whatever I'm going to use to connect to my web server. This is the same key that I'm going to forward to the app server also, and this is going to make the key authentication only for that particular temporary session, right? Only for that particular session. This is a very secure mechanism to log into the instances inside a private subnet. Okay, so now what I will do, I'm going to invoke a new session, new putty session, wherein I will first add the IP address of the web server. I'll first try to connect to the IP address of the web server in auth credentials. Let me select the keys. Now, whatever key that you have uploaded in the Pagient, you need to forward the keys, right? So I click auth here, and I enable this allow agent forwarding. This is very important. Okay, so if at all you want the web server to forward the keys to the app server so that a temporary authentication is allowed, so you'll have to allow the agent forwarding. So I want to enable this option. So you have to make sure that you enable this option, allow agent forwarding. Okay, so now I click open here, and then let me log into my web server. Okay, so from here, now let me try to log into my app server. So SSH ec2-user. So what is the IP address of the app server? Let me copy the IP address of the app server. It is 10.0.0.52. Now you can see here, I am inside the application server. So this is how you enable the agent forwarding. You upload the keys using Pagient, and then you do the key forwarding. Okay. So now, what are all the steps we have completed? We have launched the app server inside a private subnet. We have logged into the app server from the web server, which is in the public subnet. Now we will have to enable the internet connectivity for the private subnet by launching a NAT Gateway, right? So how do we do that? Now, if I go back to my console here, and let me go into the VPC dashboard. And in the VPC main dashboard, you can see the option for NAT gateways here, right? So you can see the NAT gateways here. So let me go ahead and click that option, click the NAT gateway, and I will click create NAT gateway. I can give it a name, maybe my test NAT gateway. And always remember that NAT gateway should be launched in a public subnet. That is very important to remember. NAT gateway or a NAT instance should be always launched inside a public subnet. Okay. Although they allow connectivity for the internet to the private subnet, but they should be launched inside a public subnet. Okay, so I will select public subnet, and we need a static IP address for the NAT gateway. So I'm saying allocate a elastic IP, and let me go ahead and click create NAT gateway. Okay, so while it is creating the NAT gateway, so for now we will try to check the internet connectivity from this app server. Anyway, it is not going to be there. All right, so if let me try to do a ping of any websites, maybe ping reddit.com. Okay, there is no response. Or ping yahoo.com. No response, right? Or maybe let us try to ping another website, itf.org. No response, right? So currently, there is no way that this particular app server can reach out to the internet. So now what we will do, let us verify the status of the NAT gateway. Anyway, it will take another minute or so to provision the NAT gateway. But we will try to at least update the route table entry for the private subnet. Okay. So what I will do, let me go into the route tables, and I will go to the private subnet route table, which is RT underscore private. And we will have to add a route for the private subnet to reach to the internet. Okay, so routes, I will say edit routes, and I will say add a route. Now, what would be the route? If the private subnets has to reach out to the internet, that is 0.0.0.0, what should be the path they should take? What should be the target? So in this case, we need to select NAT gateway. If you remember, for the public subnet, we selected internet gateway for the internet connectivity. For the private subnet, we need to select the target as NAT gateway, right? So this is the NAT gateway, what we just created. So I'm just adding a route that for the internet as a destination, you need to go via the NAT gateway. So let me go ahead and save the changes. Okay, now our route table entry is ready. We will do another check on the NAT gateway if it is fully provisioned. Okay, you can see the status is available now, right? NAT gateway is available, and we have edited the route table entry also. Now we will try to do the internet connectivity check from the private server, that is ping rediff.com. Can you see here? We are able to get a response from the website. Similarly, if I want to get a response from another website, okay, you can see here, now we are getting a response. Let's say I want to download some software. Let's say I want to download Apache Maven software. Okay, so I will just say download Apache Maven. This is just to check that if you're able to download the software from the internet. So I can just copy this package, and I can give the command wget the package name. You can see here, we are able to download this from the internet. It has downloaded the Apache Maven package. Right? So this is how you enable the internet connectivity for your private subnet. You launch an NAT gateway inside a public subnet to update the route table entry for your private subnet. So this is a very important point to remember. Okay. So if you want to enable internet connectivity for your private subnet, first step is you launch either a NAT gateway or a NAT instance. Both will work, right? NAT gateway is a managed service. So you can launch either a NAT gateway or a NAT instance. inside a public subnet. Okay. And the second point is update the route table entry for the private subnet, selecting target as NAT gateway for the internet traffic. These are the two important points to remember. Okay, to enable internet connectivity for your private subnet. Launch a NAT gateway or a NAT instance inside a public subnet. Update the route table entry for your private subnet. Selecting NAT gateway as the target. Okay. So let us do a checkpoint. I think we have completed all the steps. So we enable the internet connectivity. We launched a NAT gateway. We also updated the route table entries for the private subnet, and we also verified the internet connectivity for the private subnet. Okay. So once you have tested this, the request would be to please remove your NAT gateway because it is a chargeable service. So let me go ahead and immediately delete the NAT gateway, right? So that you don't incur charges for your NAT gateway. After your testing, please immediately delete your NAT gateway. Okay, I hope this content on the VPC part 2 is helpful. So I also want to let you know that I take training sessions on AWS and DevOps. So if at all anyone would be interested to take the training session from me, you can send an email to the mentioned email ID. I would be happy to share the details about the training course, the duration, the fee structure, etc. So the training mode is going to be via Zoom, and the class recordings at the end of each and every class will be uploaded onto the Google Drive where your access will be provided. And whether it is AWS or DevOps, it's going to be a 5 to 6 weeks of a interactive course completely focused on the hands-on lab exercise. Additionally, I provide guidance on the preparations for the interviews. I also share some sample resumes if at all you want to update your CV for applying for the AWS or DevOps positions. So I hope this video was helpful. If at all you are not subscribed to my channel yet, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. And if you like this content, you can share it with your known circles. So thank you all, and I will meet you all in my next video.